show of everything. Top Fives, presented by the Sex Effects. I'm Joey Prati.
And I'm Sean Day.
And folks, we are back after a bit of a hiatus. We hope you're doing well. And if not, we hope you get better. Before we get to our evening's program, Jonathan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right, actually. I've just been kind of spending this last few days and I guess the week, obviously still trying to keep up with a lot of the Black Lives Matters movement, trying to still stay active as far as like signing petitions.
Yes.
And then just also just taking some time just to, kind of reflect by myself and there's a lot of stuff happening in the world right now. But, aside from making music and staying busy, also just been trying to like kind of focus on myself personally and find time out of my days to kind of, reflect and think about, just what's going to happen, what's my path in this next few months or year or whatever, and how it's going to be like with this kind of new way of living in a way with this COVID-19 thing. So, but aside from that, just trying to stay, focused in some way or form, but also, just again, trying to take time to rest and just feel at home. So,
wonderful.
Joey, how you feeling this week, man?
Feeling good, man. Feeling productive. Started a new job recently and just been very busy and go, which is a good thing. And, been just keeping active. Keeping active. I have a lot of energy lately. It's a good thing. Creative energy, working on a new script, doing, different things. But like you were saying, trying to stay abreast of what's going on in the world, be conscious of all of our actions going forward and just trying to really not let the Black Lives Matter thing become just something that isn't trending this week. You know what I mean? Like we gotta, it's like we did Kairos. We gotta live the fourth, right? We gotta live the fucking fourth. So thank you for kind of saying that. It was well put, my friend. But yeah, man, I'm just living, really. I'm just here.
I'm just here.
I'm drinking some Mac Drizzle Gold, Mac Dre.
What?
Beer.
Wait, he has his own drink?
Well, I don't know. I picked this up from Gus's Market on Noriega. That's pretty cool. It's got the. That's pretty sweet. That's gold. If you can't tell, it's 24 karat. It's Mac Drizzle Golden Ale. Fizz Ale is what it is. A hop-forward golden ale with notes of melon, gooseberry, passion fruit, and lychee. Everywhere you drink it, it's a party, y'all. Go stupid. And it's brewed and canned by Altamont Beer Works in Livermore.
That's so cool. That's so Bay Area, dude. That's especially Mac Dre being part of the Bay Area kind of, hip hop scene. Like,
yeah.
That's super cool. I actually never realized they made something like that.
I'm not big fan of fruity beers. This is good, but I definitely chose it because you gotta rep.
That's super cool, man.
The yay.
I'm drinking a Newcastle at the moment.
Ooh,
which I didn't realize they changed their label until just recently. I was like,
that's a bummer. It was classy. It was perfect. You knew that was Newcastle. Did they go with a wider bottle? Is that what it looked like? I couldn't.
It looks kind of wider. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stumpier.
It's brown. Like I think the original Newcastle bottles had the clear. So I can understand the color change because I think it, the light and stuff in it, but yeah, it's kind of weird. It it looks like Americanized because I think it is bottled here and looks like Petaluma, California, Chicago, Illinois.
What? Wow.
Brewed and bottled, yeah. So they must be, operating out here.
So is it an English recipe? Is that because I've always known Newcastle to be a British beer. I'm confused now.
This is probably gonna be a rabbit hole I'm gonna go down tonight. Then
after this, can I follow you? Can I grab onto your tail and join you?
This is how much time I have these days. Just like what I.
That's a good rabbit hole.
Yeah. So we're having a couple brews tonight. Is there anything news? I know we kind of took this hiatus, and I guess we're kind of just trying to come back. And there was a few things I guess that dropped during this break that we had.
Things have happened out in the pop culture world that are actually worth talking about. Two. We have two deaths that we need to acknowledge. Last Monday, Joel Schumacher, the director of, I'm not going to lead with it, I'm going to say Falling Down, Phone Booth. And yes, he did Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, which were formative. We were 6 when Batman Forever came out, and Batman and Robin came out in 97, so we would have been like 8 or 9. I was already kind of losing interest at that point. I felt I'd kind of outgrown it as a mature 9-year-old. I'd moved on to Star Wars. But those, especially Forever, was a big movie, and it gets derided a lot for its campiness today. And it's not a very good movie, but the dude was given a job, and he did his job. You know what I mean? Like, he gave WB what they wanted. And he's always, I think, handled the criticism of having the modern day equivalent of the worst movie ever made constantly thrown at you, right? He handled it with such grace, and he always seemed like and by all accounts was such a nice guy. And he went on camera and apologized to the fans. It's in one of the DVD featurettes on Batman and Robin, and he's like, "Look, I'm sorry to any of the fans that I let down. I never meant to mishandle your character." And blah. He goes on like he was a genuine dude, and he seemed like a really cool guy. And the world's going to be a little less awesome without him. Joel Schumacher. And today we lost Carl Reiner.
What? No way.
Yeah. He passed away earlier today. This morning, I think.
Oh,
man. He just posted a picture with Mel Brooks and his daughter wearing Black Lives Matters t-shirts like 2 days ago. And then today, to hear that he's gone, it's but he's 98.
Yeah. He lived a good life, right?
Very good life. Let's turn the corner. Let's have some. God knows we all need just a little bit of fucking levity in our lives. Michael Keaton is in talks to come back as Batman in a Flashpoint movie. Sean, I want to know.
I was waiting for your reaction.
I have words. I have thoughts, but I want to hear yours. I don't want to taint or corrupt your I think you are going to be excited, and I think you're going to be optimistic, and I don't want to fucking dance on any of that. So I want you to go first. I want to hear what you have to say about this.
Well, I've had a few days to take it in and think about it. And we actually, before we recorded the show, I think a few days ago, we actually talked on Zoom or on the phone, and we briefly touched on this. And
yeah,
now thinking about it, I think it's an interesting play, I would say, to put him in there, especially for. I mean, I'm down to see that, like, 1989 Batman.
Down to see that, right?
That was my first experience with Batman as far as the movies and stuff, and so I it's as far as that play to kind of put him in this back in there. I'm sure it's gonna get a lot of people from our generation that will probably end up watching it or whatnot. I don't know how DC is gonna I feel right now, and I'm sure I had this feeling that I thought they're kind of course correcting a little bit with some of the DC movies and trying to kind of concentrate. Maybe even I know there's a new they're gonna have a Batman trilogy, right? With
Matt Reeves and
Matt Reeves and
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was the extent of Batman as far as, here's what they're going to do next with Batman and how they're going to kind of move forward. And honestly, I thought all these other characters like Flash, I thought the Flashpoint movie was like Nolan, it was gone. It had like a bunch of directors attached to it and they just all left. And
so I thought so many.
And honestly, I almost thought they abandoned that ship.
And they should after the shit. Cancel culture. So I don't want to be part. But like, did you see the video of Ezra Miller like throwing down?
Yeah, I saw that too. And
what? And you're gonna move forward with this guy? Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now. It's I would be interested to see it. I feel like some of those things I don't. I feel like some of those things won't deter me too much to go see it, but. At the same time, it's like I'm not invested enough into it because of the bad taste that it left me with a lot of Justice League and Batman versus Superman. And even if they release a Snyder cut or whatnot, I still don't. On my opinion, I don't think it's going to be as good as people think it is. It is cool that we're going to see like this Snyder cut, like his original vision and what it. I think that's cool and that
I'll watch it.
Great. Yeah. But. Yeah, I just felt like they didn't nail it on the head. So, I thought the direction of where they're going is why don't we maybe go with some other characters and kind of work with a single movie and
exactly
interconnectivity and stuff. And then maybe just, with the success of Joker, maybe it's like we'll have a chance to get more kind of just standalone DC movies. And like, I'm cool with that. We don't have to be so attached to this world and there's a lot of DC characters, so like I'm super down for that. But I honestly thought they were like this thing was just like out, and so hearing this news it was kind of weird hearing it, and it's like, okay, so how are they gonna really try to do this? But it is Flashpoint, so I don't know if they're trying to do this whole like multiverse kind of thing, and that's how they're gonna try to tie even all of their other titles together. And I think it's a little messy for sure.
It's
that's
messy.
how I feel about it.
It's so messy. And the idea of a multiverse, like, does a general audience give a shit about a multiverse? And if you have a multiverse, that is something you need to build towards, just like a cinematic universe. Like, Spider-Man got away with it, one, because it was animated gorgeously, but it still had Peter Parker, right? Like,
yeah.
You had someone holding your hand through it, and I guess that's what they want Michael Keaton to be. But I'm gonna give you guys a little parable. All right, Thursday night I ate like a fucking pig. I went to Target and I was like, I'm not usually at the store anymore, so like I'm never at Target, so I kind of went crazy like in the snack aisle. I bought the no brand barbecue chips, just greasy. They didn't have the plain. I would have gotten just sea salt, but they had barbecue. I got barbecue, and I picked up ice cream, cookie dough brownie, Ben and Jerry's, and I did not plan to eat or break into any of this that night. But I got hungry, and chips are my weakness, man. Like I just stood there in the kitchen going, I'm only gonna have like 2 or 3. Before I know it, 3/4 of the bag is gone, and it's been 3.5 minutes. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay, no more. Go back to the couch. I'm just like, but I'm bored. I just want to eat. But I'm not gonna do those chips again. So I got ice cream. You ever eat chocolate anything, let alone ice cream, after pigging out on barbecue chips? I love both those things. Yeah. But you don't want one to follow the other. You don't want them together. So that is how I feel about putting Michael Keaton 1989 Batman into a Flash movie. What the how does that what?
Yeah.
What? Who?
Still trying to piece it together.
Coked up producer was like, you know what? Like, I want to be in the room with that guy and be like, hey, let me actually give you some good ideas. I feel like well, first postscript to that story. After I ate ice cream, I then went back and killed the bag of potato chips, and I hated myself all day Friday. All day Friday, my stomach was like, "You suck," and I was like, "I know." At this point, I feel like Michael Keaton is nothing more than product placement in this movie, and that makes me really sad because it's hard to really articulate comic book movies when the first two Batman movies came out, the Tim Burton films. Comic book movies, superhero movies didn't really exist. We had Superman from 77, 78 to 87, I think. And that fourth one, no one went, it was like a B movie. And he was kind of, I feel like, I like Christopher Reeve, Superman. I don't like the Superman movies particularly, but I think they're more in line with Adam West, right?
Yeah, that kind of...
Especially the costumes and everything. He's more in line, he fits right in with Adam West and Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. So the Keaton one is you trace all modern superhero movies to this one. You can make a case for The Matrix, but it really starts with Batman 89. And that's why, they didn't know what they were doing. They had no template. They weren't, they didn't give a shit about the fans or what the fans thought or cared about. All that, the fans, because these didn't come around, it was a Batman movie. So they were going to grab it, right? Mm-hmm. Now we're spoiled. And you can say no to it. But back then you couldn't. So that's why you would get characters who resembled nothing like their comic book counterparts. Even Batman. Batman is nothing like Batman in either of the Burton Batman movies, but he's in the suit and he kind of fights crime, sorta, and that's really all we need, right? What those movies lacked in comic book accuracy, they were, I hate to sound snobbish, and they were cinema, they were films, right? They were a director's artistic vision, especially Batman Returns. Batman is more the vision of producers than anything else, but Batman Returns is Tim Burton's baby, for better or worse, and worse. Is it a good Batman movie? No. But it's an interesting movie, and it gave Michael Keaton a lot to do. And what are we going to gain from seeing Michael Keaton's Batman in a Flash movie? What I'm telling you right now, what it's going to be. It's going to be a bunch of fan servicey lines, and moments that are just like, yeah, of course they checked that box, right? And I especially don't want to associate Keaton's Batman with that. Keaton's Batman is my favorite on-screen Batman in terms of voice and presence and everything. And every single actor who has played Batman since Keaton owes him something, a shred of something. Like,
yeah.
Every cinematic Batman has its roots in what Michael Keaton did in those first two movies. And to see him come back this way feels very cheap, very CW, very fan servicey. And I'm really bummed out. Like, if you want to build a movie around Keaton's Batman and bring Burton back, yes, I'll check that out. Why not?
Yeah.
I don't like Burton. I think he's kind of hacky, but hey, yeah, that at least kind of makes sense,
Yeah.
This, like, how would you feel if they took Christian Bale, but it wasn't Christopher Nolan directing? It was
it's weird. It's like, I'd rather have those movies just stand on their own, and them taking Keaton's Batman and applying it to this world. It's like, wait, we obviously cherish like the original movies, or we see them for what they are, as far as like those first two, but yeah, for me, it's just like, I just don't, like, what's the play here? Like, are people gonna, are people really gonna watch this? Like, You know, I know there's a lot of people still like the Flash TV show, like the CW stuff, and you know the interest of the Flash character I think is there. You know, like I think people, you know, the fandom I guess behind that character. But as far as like, you know, I honestly thought like even with people still fans trying to get the Zack Snyder cut, and you know it is happening, but like, you know, it's just like were there really like a lot of people who really liked this series of characters, you know, with the Justice League and everything, you know,
it's
like
a loud minority.
Yeah, and I think that's where, you know, and that's the shitty part about like hearing this news is like, oh yeah, like you're taking something, you know, that movie like Batman 1989, you know, it's like when we came out, you know, we were, you know, born and shit, so like taking that and it's like really kind of blatantly use it to, you know, possibly get people to come out because of that reason. So which is, you know, that's the kind of weird, harsh reality sometimes too with I guess the movie business, right? You know, and these
it just feels gross.
Yeah, and that's gross. Why like, you know, I the whole like superhero fatigue and like those kind of bigger studio movies. You know, I have been trying to watch like smaller independent films because I am kind of not fatigued, but like I am kind of like over seeing like, whoa, like, yeah, these movies are big and they're very grand and whatnot, but also they're, you know, you know, the people behind these, you know, the machine behind it, you know, it's still, you know, that's still an issue. Like there's a lot of control that the movie studios have and not the creative control of the directors and the writers and stuff. So, which is a big thing. And honestly, you know, I think it's going to start to show. I mean, I know there's a lot of people go out to like love to see like big blockbusters, and the market, obviously, you know, outside of the United States too, you know, there's a lot of people just want to go see stuff get blown up or just see Batman, you know what I mean? Like no matter what the story is, but you know, the fans, you know, you know, I love Batman films, and I love, you know, and Joey, you're a huge Batman fan as well. So, you know, this kind of stuff is like, it's interesting because like it's very similar to like, I guess our feelings on, oh yeah, I remember that.
Steve Rude.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of similar to our discussions on like Star Wars and how Disney, you know, is running that train now. And you know, it's a totally different thing. And I guess just the takeaway right now is, you know, we could decide to watch them or not and go with that. But, you know, we still have, you know, the original content. We still have those movies. We still have the comics to go to. You know, I think that's what's, I guess, a good freedom, I guess, for, you know, us watching things, you know, and being subjective about it, right? You know, it's however we make it feel. At least the original Indiana Jones trilogy still exists, even though they made that fourth one. But I'm still gonna watch. You know, I still enjoy those.
Just put your blinders on, pretend it's not there.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
you know, but I don't know if this movie comes out and it's like, you know, I don't know how they're gonna really tie this in, and that's maybe my curiosity with the movie, and just like, okay, so how's this gonna work? And maybe that's just why I probably may go see it because of that. It's just like, okay, so like, is this going to be like DC's like, okay, we're going to try to like course correct all this stuff right now. And I honestly think it might fail, and I wouldn't mind being there when it happens. But you know, I also want to try to have faith. You know, it's like, hey man, like, you know, there's a lot of good DC stuff that they can come out with as far as movies too. And, you know, and of course they've had a few good ones out there too. So it's like, I think just trying to figure out like, you know, what they really want to do, what their plan is. And you know, the movie industry is a totally different thing right now because no one's making a lot of movies. No one's making movies right now. So maybe, you know, it'll be interesting to see what will be coming out in the next, you know, few years. And I'm going to totally hate it if they do more disaster movies based off of like COVID-19.
It's common.
Just like they did. I'm not hating on, I mean, I don't want to hate on any of these films because, you know, there is a degree of, you know, why they made them, and, you know, to obviously showcase, you know, characters that are fictional to some degree. But, you know, like, for example, the movie about like 9/11, you know, like that,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Honestly, came out too early. Like, I just why would you make a movie like that? So
I mean, if there's story potential and it's, God, I hate to say this,
but that's
I fucking hate to say this, but it's built in, like pre-existing. No, it's like almost. This is disgusting. It's almost like having an IP, right? People know that thing, so they're gonna go see it.
Yeah.
Right? If it had been about any other building or any other thing, no one's gonna go watch that movie because it's 9/11, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I hate to say it so crudely, but that's what it is.
Yeah, and that's why I never, I'm open to kind of, I even feel like I probably watch that movie like eventually, but like just stuff like that. It just shows like, like, and I'm not saying, of course, make movies. I mean, especially like documentaries. I would rather watch a documentary than like something like that. But yeah, I mean, just showing like, okay, there was one person or a few people that had to come together and make that decision to make that movie. You know what I mean? And to say like people are going to watch this because of that particular reason. So, it's a terrible comparison, but I think with Batman, it's kind of the same thing. Like people have that attachment and that nostalgia behind Batman 1989. So it's like
it's built-in audience, built-in revenue,
built-in audience right there, and that's the movie machine working right there. So yeah, so that like it sucks because I love movies, and of course some of these big movies are awesome. Like they put a lot of work into them, and I'm never dissing anyone and the people behind making these films, but it's just interesting when you see the kind of the trends and the kind of things that they're doing because it is a business. It's like crazy to like think like, yeah, it's for our entertainment, but it's also for people to make money, and like
it's all about the almighty dollar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the artsy pictures are only made to get Academy Awards, to get more prestige, to get more money. It's very disheartening.
Feel you.
But I mean, and that's kind of the that's kind of the end result of all forms of media or art, right? Is the ultimate goal is to sell this thing and have fame and fortune and what have you. But like, there's nothing pure in the world, kids. This show is pure because we don't charge money for you to listen to it. It's completely free. We do this
it's free. Hey.
To stay in touch because I love Sean and Sean loves me, and sometimes that love makes beautiful things. It really does, dude. This is pure. And if you're out there, dear imaginary audience, thank you for joining us. You are pure. Maybe I don't know you. Maybe dirty little nugget. All right, Shawnee, should we get to some lists?
Yeah, let's do it, dude.
Word. Would you like to go first? Would you like me to go first? Or you know what? If I may.
Yeah, okay.
If I may, because this whole news segment was completely leading to my top 5. Time up. Keaton's not the only one, right? Keaton's not the only guy to come back to the role 30 years after playing him, 20 years after playing him. Who else have we seen recently?
Oh, man.
There's talk that Tobey Maguire could come back for Doctor Strange. There is, there's... I don't know. There's been a lot. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Who comes back after so many years?
Oh, man. I mean, I guess a recent one that, I mean, the movie's not out yet, but like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Bill and Ted. That's
Bill and Ted.
That's
the new
example.
Bill and Ted trailer came out.
Jay and Silent Bob, technically.
Jay and Silent Bob, like that, you know. So, yeah. I mean, there's like a lot of them. Some of them that have like happened, I guess, and some of them that I wish to happen. I don't know. So, but yeah.
So this is where my top 5 comes from tonight. If you have your dream, what are your top 5 dream comeback castings? So this could be anyone who played a role however many years ago, and now they're bringing it back to. We just wanted to see what they were up to. You know, that's what I get from every bullshit producer. And I was just really curious to see where these characters are at 20 years later. No, you were curious about how much money they could still make you.
Yeah,
like that's it.
Circling back to our conversation.
It's all connected.
Yeah, man. This is an interesting one, dude. Because when I look at my list, a few of them are like comedic actors. And the roles they reprise, I guess, are from like those kind of movies. So, I've got number 5, Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura, dude.
Fuck, we have the same 5, dude.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. That's wild.
I mean, we should never be surprised. I always feel like we think of like these days, but yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I don't know if it's like a subliminal thing that's been happening, but I think they added like the Ace Ventura series on Netflix just recently. Or
They did.
It's there. So I was like, oh man, like, and I know, Jim Carrey, he's still, obviously acting, and he's been in a whole bunch of different kind of roles over the years, some dramatic and whatnot. But weirdly enough, I always felt like that was his time to shine, and really, especially for the character of Ace Ventura, and like being this. I mean, all the Jim Carrey kind of like mannerisms and like mannerisms, and like all those things that encompass his comedy acting, like physical comedy acting. He just takes it to so many heights in those movies, and I would love to see him come back as Ace Ventura, and it'll be perfect. You could stick him in any other movie. I mean, you could totally write like another Ace Ventura movie right now.
Because it's structured as a spy, or not spy. It's as a mystery, right?
Like a mystery. You
just take a Sherlock Holmes story or whatever and just make it wacky as all hell. You make it a living cartoon. You put him at the center of it. Ace Ventura can be any age. He doesn't have to be Jim Carrey in the 90s. He can be Jim Carrey now. Maybe a little toned down. He doesn't have, And here's one thing I don't want to fucking see anymore. Our heroes learn that they have a son that they didn't know about for 18 years. Oh, cool.
Oh, man.
My hero that I've been looking up to my whole life is suddenly a deadbeat dad. What the fuck? I'm really over that. I'm really over that.
No, seriously. I think as far as bringing him back, I think it would be. I think it's totally doable. And you're right. There's a lot of different kind of like genres that play into the Ace Ventura series, and I think it could totally work. I'm not sure how, like Jim Carrey personally is how he feels about reprising that role, but I think it would be hilarious. And I think even for people like generations that didn't grow up with that, like Ace Ventura, and especially now with Netflix being able to put that stuff out for audiences to see. Right. I think it'd be very interesting to see him play that role again. So, Jim Carrey for Ace Ventura.
I love it. So literally. Funny. That's wild.
Because he's got a lot of other great comedic roles too, and especially during that time. But
I think that's the one that would make the most sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe it's definitely. But
it's had its time, that movie for sure.
Yeah.
I could totally see it. Anyways, so that's my number 5. Number 4 is an interesting one. I don't know if it would be a full movie with him, and I guess this is an ensemble cast, but I've got Will Ferrell down here.
Okay.
But it's for a role that it's not one of his most like highly recognized roles. He's always been in like Anchorman, you recognize him, Step Brothers and whatnot. I would like to see Frank the Tank come back. And possibly the old, and I guess this is kind of if you can allow it, like some of the cast from Old School come back.
Yes.
I want to see that. Frank the Tank was such a funny character. It's Will Ferrell obviously being just super funny and himself in some way or form. And I mean, it is tough because it's like Old School. It's its own movie. It's like a singular movie. The Frank the Tank character was interesting because you kind of got glimpses of him, and then he kind of like transformed into that character back again. So I thought that was the funny part about it too, like seeing him be so like, reserved, but also like like he was that party animal kind of guy,
bubbling under the surface.
Exactly. So, so yeah, I just figured like it'll be funny to see him reprise that role, because he's known for a lot of different characters, and there's been multiple Anchorman. There's been two Anchorman movies. I think there's a lot of different roles he's played, but I don't know. I'm just interested to see that character. I thought he was hilarious, and and maybe that character could work, and maybe not necessarily like another sequel to Old School, but maybe it's like in that universe, or like, I could imagine like a house party and like Frank the Tank comes back and does this thing or something. So I don't know. But yeah, Will Ferrell for number 4. And let's see here. Okay, number 3, I've got Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
Toby?
If they ever do this, which I do wish they just kind of keep it to the animated side of it, but if they ever do some sort of Spider-Verse, live action, I'd be so down to see Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man again.
I think the fact that it has worked in animation means someday we will see it in live action. I think so. It made money. It made awards. Like, I think we'll see some form of it eventually.
We'll see something like that. And
Miles Morales will be the star of the next Spider-Man PS5 game.
That's right.
Like, they're really pushing it, which great, but I think they're setting up the general audience, because kids who grow up with this next video game, are going to want to see a movie starring that character, right? So,
I wish I had that meme of what's his face from Reading Rainbow. Was that the one where he has this?
LeVar Burton?
Yeah, there's a meme where he's like, he's like, yeah, and everyone uses that meme to be like, of course, like, anyways, yeah, Tobey Maguire coming back as Peter Parker. I actually really enjoyed, obviously his take on Spider-Man, and that was kind of the Spider-Man live action movie that we grew up with. It was the first kind of rendition of that. And I don't know, there was, if it was like into the Spider-Verse kind of world, maybe that would be kind of cool to see that interaction. And he was playing like a younger Peter Parker, so maybe that was interesting too. But yeah, I don't know. I actually I watched the first Spider-Man movie the other day, and it made me think I enjoyed him in this role. It holds up. He obviously doesn't look like a high schooler in the movie, but
no. He looks like he's our age, but at the same time, and the movie almost looks, I don't want to say cheap, but you can tell their movie sets, you can tell the practical effects, but it feels bigger in scope than anything Marvel has done, even Endgame. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this is your cranky aside for the moment. There you go.
Oh, that's cool, dude.
Cheers.
So Tobey Maguire for number 3. Cheers. Let's see here. Okay, 2. You might slap me on the wrist for this one, because
let's see.
His time, he had a lot of time in this role. Almost like
13, Wolverine.
14. Yes, Hugh Jackman. Fuck it. I want him to stay Wolverine, dude.
You know what? I'm with you with that. I'm with you on that. Yeah.
I can never picture anyone else. Even if they put someone else that I really like, I just can't. It's like 14, 15 years of that. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, you can't now until you see an image of the next actor playing him. And then you're like, oh. Okay.
I guess so. But, I mean, I know we're used to seeing, like, I guess different Batmans, different James Bonds, like that kind of stuff. And they do span, I was watching a few James Bond movies the other day, and it's like they do span, like, almost like a decade per, for each Bond or whatever. So, but, I mean, I don't know, man. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, like...
Yeah, we gotta see different haircuts.
I can't picture anyone else. It's that kind of thing where, I guess especially with it's hard to compare, because that guy's been in that role for so long and has done it so well and has committed 100% to it. So, so there is that weird, I guess, the attachment to it, like the personal, we've grown with this character throughout these movies, so it's like that. But I mean, screw it, man. It's a dream team. I'm gonna pick Wolverine because
fair, man. I like
Hugh
it.
Jackman. He's definitely So that's my number 2, and my number 1 is another comedic actor in some '90s movies. I've got Mike Myers, dude. I want him to come back, not as Austin Powers.
Yes.
I want him to come back as Wayne Campbell, dude, for Wayne's World 3 or whatever it's gonna be called.
I've wanted this for a long time too. Yes.
I've been down to see that, man. Kind of similar to Bill and Ted's Bogus or whatever the next adventure is.
Face the Music.
I am kind of down to see that. Face the Music. I am kind of down to see that, and I think they can do at least come up with some sort of Wayne's World-esque trilogy movie or whatever. And I honestly think that's it's one of my favorite characters from Mike Myers. I think over Austin Powers. I think he that character is and especially in I don't know, I feel like they can find a way to really kind of hone it in and really bring him back and bring Garth back, and we had that little
still play the same age. Like they don't have to age the characters up and you know what I mean?
I'd be down with that, dude.
Yeah.
I'd be super down with that. So yeah, Wayne Campbell.
What do you consider Mike Myers' masterpiece? Side question.
Man, I don't know, man. I mean, Wayne's World, like the first Wayne's World was
it's so
awesome.
good.
It was so good. I don't know. I mean, I know he's been in a few other like more dramatic roles recently.
But I mean, I'm talking Mike Myers movies. What is where he had creative control? He may not have been the director, but he had creative control. Like, what is his masterpiece?
That's tough because I always go either the first Wayne's World or probably Austin Powers 2. I thought that was my favorite Austin Powers out of those 3.
The rewatchability of The Spy Who Shagged Me is incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
I remember when we talked about it on the show, and then I ended up watching it, and I was like, this totally holds up.
Good. It's so good.
So, yeah. I think that's and then honestly, there's I guess some movies should stay where they're at, or I have my feelings about remaking like Back to the Future or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But honestly, it should be done. But I could see Mike Myers come back for another Wayne's World, and if he had a hand in that as far as like writing or contributing to the movie in that way, I think that would be super cool too. So that's my dream team at the moment. Stuff
that would
from
be so cool.
My childhood and some of them superhero movies, but I don't know.
It's a good list. I can tell you they've been talking about Austin Powers 4, but I have not heard anything about Wayne's World 3.
Oh man, it makes me sad.
Me too. We don't need Austin Powers 4. You really wrapped the story up with Goldmember and recycled a lot of jokes that didn't need recycling. I like your list. It's a good list. All right, you did Ace Ventura. Man, that's the one though. That's the one. I guess I'll put, just for the sake of keeping it fresh, I'll put The Gang from High Fidelity. I think it would be a pretty depressing movie. And I think we would find Rob in a very similar position that he was the first time around, with Laura having left him, and maybe he's 2 or 3, relationships past Laura at this point. Obviously, the record store, it could be either booming because people are doing records now, or it could be failing because of the digital age, right? You could go either way with that. I'd be curious. You know what I mean? Like, Rob definitely has at least 1, if not 2 divorces under his belt at this point.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Years pass. Yeah.
As much as I love Laura and like their relationship and all that, well, I don't love it feels real, right? It doesn't feel Hollywood. That's what I like about it. And because it feels so real and not so Hollywood, I don't see the two of them lasting. Because he grows a little bit, he grows incrementally, but not. I don't think he has a lot more to go. He has a long way to go. And I'd like to see what Dick and Barry are up to.
Yeah.
Why not? Number 4, I'm gonna go The Brat Pack. And like The Breakfast Club. You could easily frame it around a high school reunion. I mean, this is a movie that I haven't heard any talk of ever being like remade. It probably will be at some point, but so far I haven't heard anything about that. And it's a movie that every generation discovers. When I was teaching freshmen in high school, they were like, "Oh yeah, Breakfast Club. It's on Netflix. I watch it." You know, like it's a movie that is accessible. It's kind of edgy. But no one remembers it as edgy, so everyone's like, yeah, it's safe to watch. Go watch that. It's a great movie. So kids kind of discover it, and those characters are important, you know, and they're all still around. Like, I'd like to see, I'd be curious, you know. Number 3, Spike Lee, Mookie from Do the Right Thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think, given everything, Spike Lee has always been just such a passionate filmmaker. He writes with lightning. You know what I mean? I would want to see what he has to say or what story he would want to tell in the world today. And I would want to see him revisit that character in that neighborhood. You've seen Do the Right Thing, right?
Yeah. Actually ready for a rewatch on that one for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful film. It's a beautiful, heartbreaking movie. And I think, who is Mookie today, right? Would he throw the trash can today? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you know, you need a young character to anchor the story. And what advice is he giving this character? What way does he go? Right? Is he, fight, or is it, it's a lost cause? You know what I mean? After that much time, it could go either way. And I'd be curious to see, you know, I don't know.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2. I was always mad this movie didn't get a sequel. Joaquin Phoenix is Johnny Cash. There's so much more story to tell. I remember me and Danny Rodriguez, we were pissing off one of our teachers on a retreat, Isola. And we were riding with him in a van to town to pick up whatever, I don't know. And me and him were just going on and on about Walk the Line. And, oh, dude, it could. I want a sequel. Like, there could totally be a sequel. And he kept his mouth, but he was getting more pissed off at us, like, the more we talked. But he was keeping his mouth shut, you know. And at that, he finally, like, snapped and turned around. He's like, it doesn't warrant a sequel, okay? Like, but I disagree. I disagreed then, and I disagree now. Walk the Line is ripe for a sequel. Johnny and June lived such an extraordinary life. And really, Walk the Line could have been such a wackier fucking movie if you know some of the stories about Johnny Cash. Like, you know, he contributes kicking drugs to a couple of instances, depending on which autobiography you read. One, he goes to jail, and the cop who's outside the jail cell says, you know, Mr. Cash, we're so disappointed in you. Me and my wife love you, and my son looks up to you, and he goes, and that's the moment I decided to quit drugs. And you're like, no, that didn't happen. And there's another one where he goes, yeah, I crawled inside a cave, and I was just going to wait to die. And then I felt like this voice calling me, and I thought it was God, and I crawled out of the cave, and there was my mom in June. And you're also like, did that? I don't know. There was the time that Johnny Cash was so high that he accidentally lit his camper on fire, and it started a national forest fire. And he's the only person in the history of our country, maybe the world, I don't know, to be sued for starting a national forest fire and win.
What?
Like he lost the suit. Like he had to pay the fucking government money.
Whoa.
Especially because like there were endangered buzzards or something. There was the time after him and June got married where he went out to feed the animals on the ranch, and like a was it a peacock? It was an ostrich. It was an ostrich. Sliced Johnny Cash from the belly. His belt buckle saved his life. He was rushed to the hospital. At this point, he was clean, but they gave him pain meds because his entire front end was split open, and he got addicted again. And he writes about how the night before he was supposed to be let out or discharged from the hospital, he was like, I had a plan. He opened up his stomach, his wound, and he took all these pills that they weren't going to let him take with him, and he was going to smuggle them out inside of himself.
What?
So he put the pills in there, and then he closed the wound back up. Well, what happened was that the pills dissolved into his system. So he's like high as a fucking kite, like nearly ODing because he has like a month's supply of pills just in his system now, and he's just like, yes. Yes.
That's an insane story. What?
Yes. Like, we need a sequel. We need that.
Yeah, we need that.
And Joaquin could do it, man. And make him be Joker skinny this time.
Man. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot that, they could fill in, or at least go through, because, that's a whole man's life.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed Joaquin Phoenix in that role. We've talked about Walk the Line.
Yeah, the two of them are charming together. They have good chemistry.
Yeah, good chemistry with Reese Witherspoon, and that'd be interesting too to see a movie, to see more into the Johnny Cash's life and his escapades, I would say. So
you got the Highwaymen, his partnerships with Bob Dylan. Like, you can explore so much shit.
There's a lot of different moments they can really highlight in a movie like that. Interesting. I didn't expect that one actually from you because
full of surprises.
There we go.
All right, number 1. Here we go. You ready for this?
Hit me with it, dude. What do you got?
I want to see Pierce Brosnan come back as 007, baby.
Dude, you know what's so crazy? I mentioned I've been watching the Pierce Brosnan era 007 movies, and literally right before, as I was working on my list, I was like, you know what, like James Bond, there's different people that come back, and I know this is our dream list, but I thought of him. It's so crazy you thought of him, dude. I was thinking about putting him on my list.
Yeah. Dude, I would. Those are the Bond movies we grew up with. I think he is a very good James Bond. He is kind of what I think of when I think of James Bond. And his movies had the fun of a James Bond movie that I want, where the Daniel Craig has the character development and sometimes the story. If you could take those aspects and give them to Pierce Brosnan, because I think he could handle it, and I think he would make a really good aging Bond. Like, Bond doesn't need to be. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be cool. I'd really like to see it.
Yo, I rewatched GoldenEye, man. It was awesome.
And it's like the only like legitimately good Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah,
movie. You know what I mean? Which is about like Tomorrow Never Dies is boring. World Is Not Enough is. I like it, but it's not good. Christmas Jones is the name of the Bond girl, and she's played by Denise Richards, and who I love. But I'm just saying. And then Die Another Day is just
all
terrible
sorts of mess.
Camp, dude.
Yeah,
but
it was interesting. It was interesting watching GoldenEye again, dude, because it's like this was our the first Pierce Brosnan James Bond film, and I guess sparking it for the that kind of generation of people, for the kind of the next generation of James Bond moviegoers. Yeah, it was interesting watching that, man. I was like, dang, this is like, and then of course, we love the N64 game GoldenEye, and I was like, oh my god, this is the scene, and like it's like, oh yeah, that's right, like all these, like you play the campaign, and
Yeah.
but yeah,
what's really interesting about GoldenEye? They give him a blue car.
That's right.
They give him a blue BMW. What? Why? James Bond's car should always be silver.
Yeah, you're right about that.
He does get to drive the DB5 in the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it's
when
it's
that woman
cool.
is sent to evaluate him, and she goes, "James, you're incorrigible."
Which while rewatching some of those scenes, I know they even mention it a few times, like because there's obviously the history of James Bond, especially talking to females in the movies. There's a great scene. I don't know if it's in the. I think it is in World Is Not Enough or Gold. I think it is in GoldenEye. World's Not Enough. I think it's World Is Not Enough.
Are you thinking when Judi Dench tells him off?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a moment where M just goes, well, she just like puts James Bond in her place, and I feel like that was kind of like their statement on some of like
I believe she calls him a sexist, misogynistic dinosaur.
Yes,
a relic from the Cold War era.
Yeah,
it's such a good line. It's such a good line. Yeah. I knew that's where you're going. I was so excited when you started talking about it. I was like, I know where this motherfucker is.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, like someone's finally called him out on this. So, and yeah, Judi Dench is amazing in those series of films. It was really nice to see like her introduction into that. So, dude,
I think that's why I like Skyfall so much.
Yeah, it is very like that was a very personal story to her. But I really liked Pierce Brosnan. That was a good call, man. Like, yeah. I would love to see him maybe as an older Bond. That'd be really interesting too. So,
yeah,
dude, interesting list. Now I'm like thinking of like movies that I hope will come out in the future, but hopefully they don't get butchered too as well. So, which could be a possibility.
It's very possible.
It's possible. So Joey, I'm going to segue into our next top 5.
Please.
Obviously, watching a lot of shows, and I don't know. I really, really enjoy watching the opening show credits and the kind of opening scenes of a show and the title scenes. So, Joey, what are your top 5 opening sequence scenes or credit scenes, or I don't know? What do you call them? Title cards?
Title sequences.
Title sequences.
So I like this. I like this list. Top 5 TV title sequences. Say that.
TV title sequences.
TV title sequences. I don't know. Anyway, number 5. I have a lot of, just forewarning, I have a lot of cartoons on this list.
Oh, it's cool. Hell yeah.
Number 5. I'm gonna go Doug. It's got that wonderful, just chilling. And it's Doug. He's against a white background, and there's just this line, like someone's drawn a line. It's like he's in a page of his notebook or his journal, and he takes that line and he kind of wrangles all his friends. And when he sees Patty Mayonnaise, it becomes a heart balloon, and he floats up, to the sky. And it's very inventive. It's something you could only do in animation, and it tells you everything you need to know about the character and kind of his mindset. Mm-hmm. Doug, I think, was always much more of like a cerebral kind of cartoon, right? When you think about it, it's just a kid whose imagination gets the better of him, and as someone whose mind is always doing that, the older I get, I go, shit, I really do relate to Doug funny. You know what I mean? Like, I think about him more and more as I get older, because I'm like, that's what it is, But wonderful opening, and the soundtrack, it's him and Pork Chop together.
Oh, I know. Gosh, I might have to revisit that show. It's been years since I've seen that.
Show. Wonderful show.
Years.
Number 4. I was gonna go Happy Days, but I think I'm gonna go Fresh Prince.
Ooh, good call on the
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's very like.
It's catchy, and it tells you quite a good backstory. Yeah.
And it's something that you never really want to skip through, right? In Westville, like, yes, I want to listen to that. Yes, I want to sing along or rap along to that or whatever the fuck. And like, yes, I want to see Will Smith do this with his head a few times. You know what I mean? Like, like, yes, please. So yeah, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Number 3. It's my favorite TV show of all time. Batman, the animated series.
Dude.
It's got the Shirley Walker by way of Danny Elfman's score. And you see the crooks, and then and you see the Batmobile, and the cops are chasing the cops, and somehow they're on the roof all of a sudden, and then there's Batman, and he just takes them out, and you know everything you need to know about the character in the span of about 50 seconds. It's so cool. And it's beautifully animated and wonderfully scored. Number 2. Gigolos.
I'm trying to remember the opening and how that went.
I'm gonna walk you through the opening right now. So, Gigolos is a Showtime After Dark series. It is a reality series about 5 gigolos living in Las Vegas. And they're so ridiculous. They are exactly the type of people that you suspect them to be. They are douchebags and assholes and self-obsessed and just... It's amazing. It is the most amazing experience. And it's wonderful because you can put on any episode and you'll know who these guys are within the first 45 seconds because it starts out. I'm gonna walk you. I think I've memorized the Gigolos intro. You ready for this?
Hit it.
You hear Nick Hawk going, what's he say? Shit, hold on. Now I'm on the spot. It's not easy being a gigolo. Or no, it's Jimmy. He's saying, it's tough work being a gigolo or something like that. And then I think it cuts to Nick Hawk. I'm very proud to be called the gigolo. I try to break a sweat 6 days a week. There's nobody more competitive than me. Intercut with these guys driving around in the Las Vegas lights. Cut to them like having sex. You know what I mean? And then it cuts to Brace, the older gentleman of the group. And he just kind of, the Brace philosophy is really to be good to people. I've had so many women in my life, it's just a blur. And then he's walking up with this woman. He's like, well, I'm just going to enjoy this. And then it cuts to Jimmy. And Jimmy is like, he's this creepy guy who looks like the Woody doll come to life. And he just goes, I'm the guy who likes to eat dessert first. And he does that with his tongue. And he's like, I'm very adventurous. I'm willing to try anything once. And then it goes to Steven. He goes, I'm just a regular guy looking for love like everybody else. This is me. You can take it or leave it. And then it goes to Vin Armani, kind of the normal one of the group. He's like, I really love women. Learning about them, learning what makes them tick. I would consider myself like a real feminist. And then it gets to Nick Hawk in his car going, it's Vegas, baby. And that's it. Then you're in it. They all cheers their glasses on a rooftop. And then you're in whatever this episode has in store for you. It is always like, what?
Yeah.
What? Nick Hawk is trying to launch a rap career, and then he records a country song. It is. There's
Whoa,
so
what?
many. Oh.
Please send that to me.
Yeah. Do you have Showtime?
I don't. Actually, I don't.
Yeah, I can't send it to you.
That's cool.
But yeah, so Gigolos is my number 2. I love that. Like, I can't. No one knows about this show because it's on Showtime After Dark, and it
highly
contains some porny type elements, I guess. But really, you don't have to watch it for that stuff. You can fast forward through that stuff. You want to watch them just interacting with each other and talking about their day. It's incredible. Number 1, I'm gonna go Bob's Burgers.
Ooh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Bob's Burgers. I think this is the most successful TV title sequence there is. I think it's 15 seconds long, and you see everyone kind of drops into frame one at a time, right? So it's the burgers, and then it's Bob, then it's Linda, and then it's each of the kids in the order that they were born, and you see the places around them change hands a couple times, and like people walk by, and you get a sense of their neighborhood. In 15 seconds, it communicates everything you need to know about this TV show, that this is a family, this is their world. There's puns on either side of them, so it's that kind of humor. Like it's so great, and it's inventive, and it's clever in the way that it kind of does those pun jokes different every single time, and sometimes it's different people who will walk by. It's charming. It's really charming. I love it. I adore Bob's Burgers.
Man, I gotta catch up. I don't think I watched that last season, so
I haven't watched several seasons ago, but I watched the first 3 or 4, and it's such a wonderful TV show.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
That's it's very interesting when you most of your lists, and maybe that's why we pick these shows or as our favorites as far as the title sequences, is being able to communicate to the audience in this title sequence, this is what the show's about, or at least an idea of where, immediately you're introduced to that aspect of the show. And I think that's why a lot of these title sequences are very important too. I feel to really set up kind of where you're at as far as the feel of the show and then the characters. So. That was an interesting thing I realized with you when you were talking about it. It's just that's what they're for, but also
I think
the way they do it, right? The way they they're able to do it. So
it's the most important aspect. I think that's the entire job of a title sequence. Stan Lee used to say every comic book is someone's first comic book. Well, every episode of a TV show is someone's first time, right? And they need they're not going to get the complex backstories of this person was in love with that one and blah, blah, but they can get a sense of who these characters are, how they fit in their world together, and the title sequence, when done well, can accomplish that. It's my favorite superhero movie title sequence of all time. Because remember, back in the day, X-Men was just you were going through DNA strands for 8 minutes. Can we get to the freaking movie already? And it wasn't until Spider-Man 2, and they brought in Alex Ross, and he painted scenes from the first movie. It was so beautifully done, but it told you silently, all visual. It brought you through the story of the first movie, and you were kind of able to go, okay, I'm caught up. Let's jump in. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm curious to see your list and hear your top 5.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't put too many animated shows, but I do have an animated show on mine. I put Hey Arnold because similar to Bob's Burgers. It was
so hard to leave off, dude. Yes.
Similar to Bob's Burgers, you kind of get an idea for the obviously Arnold and his friends in the neighborhood, and then of course the sense of the place they're at and where everything's at, and it introduces a lot of different characters within that title sequence alone. So I think that's what I enjoy about that opening sequence. And I guess a lot, it seems like a lot of animated shows, especially with from that era, I felt like some of the older stuff, they did that a lot, where it's you're really trying to encompass kind of the environment and where this is taking place, and really having that be addressed up front. But Hey Arnold's such a that's another show I have to rewatch. I just haven't watched it in years, but I remember it's so crazy to it's embedded in your memory as far as how that title sequence goes, playing it over in my head. And the same, for some of the shows you mentioned too, man. So, Hey Arnold, man. And then, Like, hey Arnold, that kind of callback thing, and
move it, football head.
Yeah, move it, football head. Yeah, it's all these like, and so and then you get to introduce some of the characters, and some of the dialogue they say, kind of gives you an idea of like how they're gonna act, in the show. So, yeah, it's on my list of like cartoons that I want to revisit from my childhood kind of stuff. So
it holds up. It holds up really well.
That's why I'm excited to watch it because, and man, animated shows back in that time, especially for it was on Nickelodeon, right? I mean, I know it's a little separate, but the inclusiveness and diversity in some of the cartoons in Nickelodeon, like I remember seeing a post about people mentioning how cartoons, back in the 90s and especially on Nickelodeon were, very diverse and included a lot of different, ethnicities and whatnot. And so it was interesting to kind of relay that back to what stuff that's been going on recently and just like, wow, I'm glad I got to see a show like that too. Yeah. That's very inclusive, even for a cartoon. So
we were lucky in that regard. We didn't grow up with hate.
I feel you, dude. Hey Arnold. I've got number 4. I've got Game of Thrones. I know we don't speak of this show as much on our podcast these days, but I gotta say, every time that title sequence came up, I watched it all the fucking time. It got me so amped. I know we have a sour taste on the last season, but it got me so amped for the show. Each season, they would change the layout of the map and kind of show you areas you're going to visit throughout the season. So I thought that was very interesting. And it had this kind of, I don't know, like puzzle piece, kind of mechanical machine kind of look to it that represented all the different kingdoms. So in a way, it did. In a way, it did introduce you to like the areas and the different kingdoms, and kind of even the design of some of the, some of the aspects of what makes that kingdom or that family, very very specific to them. Like there's like design aspects of that too, and the music too as well. Man, got me pumped every single time to watch the episode. Aside from the last season, but yeah, Game of Thrones for number 4. Let's see. Number 4. I moved a few, so okay. I'm gonna go number 3. Dexter, which is a Showtime one. Long story short, Dexter is a forensics officer living in Miami. But he's also a serial killer that kills other serial killers.
By night. So the show is how it opens is a perfect way to kind of showcase this man who's like living a double life in a way, and this kind of puts on this face. But the show opens with him pretty much doing his morning routine, and the camera angles and stuff are so, I guess, very focused and close. Like focused on specific parts of him cooking his breakfast, so he's like cutting up his or he's mixing his eggs and cutting things, and but the way they shoot it and the way they make it so in close and hyper real, they find a good way to make it seem like he's like killing, and so the actions of this normal routine of doing your morning thing, and he's making some coffee and doing these things, but the way he they focus in on him grinding the coffee, and it's like he's grinding some body or something, or the way he's flossing his teeth, and they have this very intense moment where he's like tightening the floss, and and the way it's cut, and that's very good editing, as far as that, and being able to showcase that. So it's a very, I don't know if that's like smart, but like it's a very good way to like to show something that seems very normal, a normal routine in someone's day, but also the underlying thought of like this guy's a killer. So these things are also things that come to mind. So I thought that was a very
smart way of really kind of addressing like this person who's like kind of living a double life. And it's and again it's watchable every time. It makes me cringe every time I see it. So,
hell yeah.
So Dexter,
love it.
Dexter was number 3, right? 3. I'm gonna go 2. Man, number 2. I'm gonna go Westworld. Actually, really, I have my opinions on the latest season, but the Westworld title sequence. One, the music's awesome in it.
It's good.
It really nails kind of like it really nails like the identity of the show and it sets up that kind of mood for the show. But I really like the sequence. One, each season, of course, they change it. It's a little different every season, but the kind of, especially with the show being about hosts or these kind of like human robots who are kind of enslaved by the human race in a way. So there's a lot of great sequences where it's these kind of animals and these like human kind of human features, and there's like again this kind of godlike force that's kind of animating these characters and stuff. So I think that's like kind of what was interesting is, and probably my favorite part about the opening sequence was when you see the close up on the piano, and one of the hosts or the robots is playing the piano. It's like the skeleton too. It's not like a human skeleton. And then the person's hands like move away, and then the piano's playing, and it's just a perfect like representation of like these robots not having that kind of sense of control, and they have a conscience in some way or form, and this kind of like and also being programmed. Are the actions that are happening to the characters, especially the robotic ones in the show, are they predetermined, or are they pre-programmed, or are they actually making decisions? So there's a lot of like underlying themes that are like hitting with some of the imagery you're seeing in the title sequence, and I always like that part of it. So, Westworld.
Wonderful.
And then my number 1, which has become, I've talked about this show like many times on this podcast, but after I'm almost done with the 3rd season, it just dropped. The title sequence for Dark. I really, it's becoming it's my favorite show, dude. It's my favorite show.
Your favorite show.
Number 1 favorite show of all time.
Dark. And did you say it's German?
It's a Netflix produced German show. So it's, I think it's one of Netflix's first German produced shows. So it's fully
but is it
like
in German?
It's in German.
Jesus, your favorite show of all time is in German.
I did watch it twice. Once with the dub on it, American dub on it, and actually, it was distracting a little bit at first. But the voiced actors behind it, they did a really good job, and I felt like they definitely killed it. So, but yeah, I fucking love this show, man. It's really it's got all the things I want in it: time travel, science fiction.
Hell yeah.
Family dramas and shit. And
wonderful.
Yeah, and the title sequence, it's kind of weird because it is a little bit more shrouded in mystery when you watch it. But it's great. They do the effect where I don't remember what the name is, but it's it's like the butterfly test or the Rorschach test or whatever it's called. What do you call them? Rorschach test. So the title sequence for each season, they take scenes from specific parts of the show, and then they do the Rorschach kind of double image sequence on there, and it creates these very beautiful images, and also kind of hints at a few things that might happen in the series, and kind of thematic things that are in there, and it. I don't know. Every time it just like gets me. It's really interesting to watch and look at, and the song they use for it too as well. I posted something today about it because I was like, I can't get over this show right now, and it really and especially I guess if you do watch the show and if you finish this third and final season, it makes more sense when you watch the title sequence. And not saying you have to go through the whole show to kind of get it, but it makes
adds
more
layers.
It adds a layer to it for sure. Right. So dark title opening sequence for number 1. Yes.
That's how us jazz people like to do poets. Beatniks. Us beatniks.
Beatniks, y'all.
Word. Well, very good. Very good, my friend. That's a good list. Hey Arnold, Game of Thrones, Dexter, Westworld, Doc.
Doc.
Jonathan, do you have anything you'd like to share with our dear, sweet, lovely, imaginary audience this week?
Not much. I think we talked off air about this, but I did get a chance to watch the last Black Man Last Black Man in San Francisco. Is that I'm trying to get
that's
the title right. So we've talked about it on the show a little bit, and Joey recommended it to me, so I watched it.
Great
and
movie.
I really enjoyed that film, and it is kind of funny to hear talks about in our high school Reardon in there and SI and stuff like that. But it was a really nice story, and obviously it's a small there's a small kind of love letter to SF in a way there, but also I don't know I don't know how to really touch on it. I mean, there's a lot of parts that I liked about it and stuff that I really took away from it. And, there's a theme of, obviously kind of, there's a theme of like letting go and, kind of being able to, have this kind of fantasy of having this, this one thing. There's a lot of different things it hits on, and I really enjoyed it. And I think, our listeners, if they watch it, they'll enjoy it too. So
I fully believe that as well. It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot film.
Oh yeah, the way they highlight a lot of like San Francisco and the buildings and houses in San Francisco. It really made me miss San Francisco and appreciate the city even more. So.
And it doesn't feel like the San Francisco you usually see in a Hollywood production. It feels like the city, it has that flavor, that personality to it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of my share. I watched a film, and I have a lot more films on my kind of docket to get through, but that was one I really enjoyed. So, and then
I like it.
For the last time, check out Dark too, because the third season, the final season dropped, and I have one episode left, so I've been kind of savoring this last episode, and I am getting kind of like the Game of Thrones vibe, not Game of Thrones vibes, but I am kind of sad that it's over. So, we'll have to see how it ends, and check it out. So,
wonderful.
Joey, do you have anything to share this week, man? What do you got?
2 quick things. I'm late to the game on this. Literally. But Call of Duty World War II, I'm having a lot of fun. I feel like I'm in college again. It's my favorite Call of Duty game since Black Ops. So it's a blast. I like it.
It's a blast.
It was the free game of the month on PS Plus last month. So our buddies, St. Francis and the Wolf, released their debut album. You posted about this earlier. It's wonderful. It's so good. I recognize so many of the songs from their live show and was treated to a bunch that I hadn't heard before. So please go download, buy this album, rate it. Rate it 5 stars, or if it's out of 10, rate it 10. Don't rate it 5 if it's out of 10. If it's out of 5, rate it 5. It's a wonderful album. I think Super Toy is the track that I'm just kind of like vibing with right now.
Yeah, I finally got into the album. And it's really cool to see them release music, and we've talked about them on the show, and I said in my post, it's like I can't wait to play another show with these guys. With Blind
We're supposed to play June 5th.
Yeah, so
that did not happen. That's
not
okay.
happen.
It will happen.
we'll hope. Yeah, hopefully in the future, sometime soon. So, but yeah, dude. Anything else? Anything else you like to share, Joey?
Oh, just for those watching at home, if you are, I always take a picture of. I write down all our lists every week, and then I take a picture just so if I'm in the other room, I don't have to come back for my notebook. Or if I'm out in the world, I'm like, oh man, I gotta. So
smart lad.
Yeah, but that's it. That's it. I've missed doing the show with you. I've missed our dear, lovely, sweet, imaginary audience. And I just hope that we can continue to push forward and not forget, that we all got to be instruments of change. I hate to put it that way, but I mean, that's what we all have to be, right? We got to be like St. Francis. Yeah, there we are. There we are. Go out and make the world a better place, whether it be through your art or whatever the fuck. That's my shit. Soapbox. Jonathan, I'm sorry, excuse me. One last question before we go. It's been so long, I'm almost forgetting. Where can we find more of your work on the internet this week, my friend?
You guys find me on Instagram at Sean Day Music, and on my website seandaymusic.net. Net, y'all.
Y'all.
Check me out. Joey, where can we find you on the internet?
You can check me out on Twitter at Joey Prodi and on my website, joeyprodiscripts.com. You can check out the show at Top 5 Pod, that's TOPFIVE 5POD, on Instagram, on Twitter, at Facebook, or at gmail.com, and on Facebook at Top 5 Podcast. We're on Apple Music, Google Play, and SoundCloud, so please give us a like, give us a listen, give us a follow, give us your love, and we will give you
so much more hugs in return.
We're giving you hugs.
Socialite distance hugs in return.
Until next week, I'm Joey Prodi.
And I'm Sean Day.
Thanks for listening. Yeah. Okay.